Tecno Camon 17 Pro Review. Not quite premier, but still a pro, the Camon 17 Pro is Tecno's latest and greatest, bringing decent camera hardware, powerful mid-range chipset and a big battery, all for about €250 to €300 depending on who you ask. Africa being the primary market for Tecno, we're finding the Camon 17 Pro at Nigerian retailers for as low as NGN 130K, €260. That will get you a large, 6.8-inch display with a 90Hz refresh rate, though it's an LCD and not OLED. The Helio G95 should be easily good enough for most things, and the 5,000 mAh battery promises excellent endurance. Camon is the camera-focused series in the brand's lineup, and this 17 Pro comes with a 64MP primary unit, joined by an 8MP ultrawide with autofocus. Then there's a couple of 2MP cameras, one labeled bokeh, the other black/white. More important than these 2x2 is the selfie camera, a 48MP sensor is in charge there. Here's a quick recap of the specs before we open that box. Tecno Camon 17 Pro specs at a glance. Body, 168.9 by 77.0 by 9. 0mm, 201 grams, plastic frame. Display, 6.80 inches IPS LCD, 90Hz, 1080 by 2460 px resolution, 20.5 to 9 aspect ratio, 395p. Chipset, MediaTek Helio G95, 12 nanometers, octa-core, 2x2.05 GHz Cortex A76 and 6x2. 0 GHz Cortex A55, Mali G76MC4. Memory, 256GB/128GB storage, 8GB RAM, microSDXC, dedicated slot. OS/software, Android 11, iOS 7.6. Rear camera, wide, main, 64MP, f/1.8, 26mm, 1/2.0, 0.7 micrometers, PAF, ultra-wide angle, 8MP, f/2.3, 119, 1/4.0, 1.12 micrometers, bokeh, 2MP, f/2.4, monochrome, 2MP, f/2.4. Front camera, 48MP. Video capture, rear camera, 4K at 30fps, 1080p at 30fps, front camera, 1080p at 30fps. Battery, 5000 mAh, fast charging 25 watts. Miscellaneous, fingerprint reader, side-mounted, FM radio, 3.5mm jack. Tecno Camon 17 Pro unboxing. The Camon 17 Pro arrives in a two-piece box that's white on the outside and blue on the inside, the same blue that's used for the bold Camon lettering on the lid. Inside, there's a full set of accessories, including a reasonably beefy charger rated at 5V/3A and 10V/3.3A and a USB-A to C cable to go with it. There's also a transparent silicone case for protection, as well as a set of earbuds. Design. The Camon 17 Pro is keen to advertise its branding, a sizable Camon logo in the lower left corner on the back together with a smaller Tecno badge leave no doubts about the phone's heritage. That's a notable change coming from the previous generation where Tecno was bigger than Camon. The family's focus on camera now gets center stage. We'd say it's at least a little bit too much. The size of the badge, the aperture mechanism in the O, the notches in the C and A, it's like Tecno didn't know when to stop designing. That's in addition to the vertical stripe pattern of the matte back panel and its playfulness with light that makes it change hues depending on the angle. Taking a step back, however, even though it may all sound excessive, the phone somehow manages to pull off the look. The top left corner is home to the camera island, and it's one of those two-level designs with the camera sticking out higher up than the beach with the quad LED flash. There's nothing more than a 64MP AI quad cam inscription here, misleading in the number of actual useful modules, as are many low-end to mid-range handsets. As best as we can tell, the back panel is plastic. Tecno isn't making any Gorilla Glass claims, be it for the rear or the display side. The 6.8-inch LCD is surrounded by what we can most easily describe as mid-range bezels. It's got a black frame all around that won't go unnoticed but doesn't strike us as anachronistically thick either. The top bezel is barely thicker than the sides, if at all, and the chin is a bit meatier, but not by a lot. The earpiece above the display also doubles as an extra speaker in a stereo setup, sort of. The punch hole for the selfie camera is a bit larger than what we like seeing, though you could argue its diameter is on par with other non-flagship efforts. The frame of the Camon 17 Pro is plastic, this one we're certain of. The right side is home to the physical controls. A power button with a fingerprint embedded in it is placed just above the midpoint, in an indented portion of the frame, while two discrete volume buttons with a concentric ring texture are right above it. The fingerprint reader is always on by default, so a tap will suffice, but you could change its behavior in settings to require a press, if you happen to be activating it inadvertently, as is often the case with these side-mounted units. As for when you do intend to unlock the phone, the reader works really well for both right thumbs and left index fingers. The card slot is on the opposite side of the Camon 17 Pro, high up near the top end. It's a triple slot to accommodate a couple of nano SIMs and a micro SD card all at the same time, if the 256GB of built-in memory are somehow insufficient. Down on the bottom of the phone, you'll find the USB-C port flanked by the main loudspeaker on one side and the 3.5mm headphone jack and the primary mic on the other. Up top, a lone pinhole suggests there's another mic for stereo sound capture and noise cancelling in calls. The Camon 17 Pro measures 168.9 by 77 by 9 mm and weighs in at 201 grams, on our scales at least, since Tecno hasn't provided an exact number. The phone is a good centimeter taller than the Galaxy A32 and some 5mm more than the Redmi Note 10 Pro, and it's also the widest of the three, as well as the heaviest, if not by all that much. So if you're looking for a more compact phone in this segment, the Camon is not it. 6.8 inches LCD can go as high as 90 Hz. The Camon 17 Pro is equipped with a 6.8-inch LCD and a slightly unusual 20.5 to 9 aspect ratio with a resolution of 1080 by 2460 px, making for a pixel density of 395p. It's got a maximum refresh rate of 90 Hz, not quite the 120 Hz that some competitors are offering, but not 60 Hz either. We measured two maximum brightnesses on the Camon, with somewhat inconsistent ways of achieving them. Sometimes it would be the higher one, at other times, the lower one. The absolute highest we got was 538 nits, an okay reading, if not particularly impressive. The other was 342 nits, pretty low for an LCD. We'd like to say that we got the higher number with the adaptive brightness toggle enabled, but there didn't appear to be a solid correlation between the two, as in, sometimes you'd get the high brightness without the toggle engaged, sometimes not. Additionally, we'd set the brightness slider to a particular level, only to switch apps and see brightness change one way or another, without the adaptive toggle engaged.
Thanks for watching. Drop a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to watch more videos like this.
Illumination made for a rather poor contrast ratio in the cases when it would decide that 340 nits is as high as it would go. The 1200 to 1 ratio when in 540 nits high